I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, August 8th, 2023 Board of Parks and Recreation Commissioners meeting for Kansas City, Missouri. First order of business is roll call.
Commissioner Smith,
Present.
Commissioner Perez-Rico,
Present.
President Holland,
Present.
Chris Patton.
Here.
First item on the agenda is considering board approval of the July 25, 2023 board meeting minutes as outlined in attachment A. Are there any suggestions or revisions to the proposed minutes?
Looks good to me. Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the minutes from July 25th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The minutes are approved. The next order of business is presentation by the city auditor of the performance audit regarding tree canopy and implementation of a management regulation to help achieve the city tree canopy. Mr. Jones.
Good afternoon, Board President Holden, members of the Parks and Recreation Board. My apologies for not presenting this to you earlier. It just kind of slipped by. I wish we'd have got back earlier on this audit. But today's presentation, I'm going to talk about the audit objectives a little bit, provide you some background, and summarizing our findings and recommendations. You should have copies of the audit report, and I think we're going to go old school today, and you'll just have to flip through the slides as I'm talking about them. Team for the audit was Kara Jorgensen, Vivian Z, and Sue Paulus. This audit focused on how city trees are managed. The Parks and Recreation Department's foresters provide technical expertise related to trees, including inspection of tree health and advising whether a city tree can be saved or whether it must be removed. While the department's responsible for the management of trees, other departments manage projects that sometimes require the removal and or planting of city trees. Successful department coordination of tree removal and planting impacts the city's ability to support goals of preserving and expanding the city's tree canopy. The tree canopy preservation and expansion administrative regulation issued by the city manager in March 21 are policies and procedures all city departments are to follow when they remove and replace city trees. The regulation began in 2018 through the Green KC, which was a volunteer effort of city departments and employees. Trees provide a significant benefits to residents, but the city's trees are in decline due to age, disease, and weather. The city's tree canopy has been estimated to provide about $28.2 million worth of services annually to residents. In 2018, the city's estimated tree canopy was 31% of the land area within the city limits. The city's urban forest master plan, approved by the council in 2020, set a goal to increase the tree canopy to 35%. The City Council also approved the Climate Protection and Resiliency Plan and the Urban Forest Master Plan. Both plans provide policy direction for the city to actively address climate change. Trees are vital to the city's strategy in addressing climate and ecological emergency. One mitigation strategy in the Urban Forest Master Plan is conserving and restoring city trees through proactive management. Because maximum benefits for trees are not realized until the trees are mature, it is important to focus our efforts on tree preservation and expansion immediately to remain consistent with these efforts. Because the city tree management regulation has not been implemented, city departments' removal and replacement of trees may not support the city's goal to expand the tree canopy. The regulation requires a permit process and tree replacement ratios. The Parks Department has not created a permit process as required by the regulation to manage city departments' removal and replacement of city trees. However, instead of issuing permits, the department staff have varying practices to receive tree removal requests and communicate decisions. Establishing a permitting process can assist in managing and enforcing city tree removal and replacement. The department needs to enforce the tree replacement rate. The regulation requires departments to replace trees that are removed at a specific rate. Basically, the replacement rate increases as the size of the tree being removed increases. So enforcing the tree management regulations replacement ratio supports the goal of expanding the tree canopy. The department needs to communicate to other city departments its authority over all city trees, city department's responsibility to obtain a permit from parks to remove city trees, and the tree replacement rate, as replacement costs can be significant. The department needs a clear understanding of the process. City departments need a clear understanding of the process and city tree replacement costs so those can be included during project planning efforts. The tree management regulation includes a calculation where in lieu of replanting a tree as part of a project, they can pay into a tree replacement fund. The Parks Department had not clarified questions about how funding sources might restrict the use of project dollars paid into the tree fund. Many projects use bond funds, which are approved for types of projects, and PIAC funds, which may be limited to a particular council district. Without clarification on the project's use of funds from the tree fund, the department may not appropriately segregate or track project monies. The tree management regulation does not provide direction for planting new city trees that do not first require a tree removal. Park staff said they often do not know about new trees because the Forestry Division is not notified. Revising the regulation to require departments to notify parks when they are planting a new tree helps ensure that the planting specifications the department has are followed and trees are added to the city tree inventory. A tree inventory is a record of a location and tree characteristics such as species and size. The Parks Department's tree inventory is not complete and the existing inventory had not been maintained. A complete and updated tree inventory is a necessary tool for managing the city's trees. The city's urban forest master plan identifies the city's need for a complete and updated inventory of city trees. Park staff said that they lack the staff to consistently update records of the currently inventoried trees and lack the funds to conduct a comprehensive inventory of city-owned trees. The federal government's Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act's Healthy Streets program could provide some grant funding for a tree inventory. We also know that the department should clarify its staff's responsibility and authority for implementing the regulation. Unclear authority and responsibility have contributed to slow implementation of the reg. The city's tree management regulation assigns some responsibilities to the department's forestry division and some to the city forester. The city forester, other staff foresters that do not report to the city forester, and the environmental manager approve the city tree removal and replacement plans. Plans from city departments and divisions affecting trees are sent to different park staff for review because there's a lack of clarity within the department of who is responsible for implementing the tree management regulation. The process for reviewing and removal plans, documenting decisions, and enforcing replacement rates varies among staff. Similarly, some foresters involved in the removal, replacement, and maintenance of city trees update changes in the tree inventory while others do not. No one has the responsibility for ensuring the tree data is maintained. The department has not analyzed the impact on staffing or for implementing the city tree management regulation. Approving the removal and replacement of all city trees increases the number of trees for which the department is responsible. The increase in trees and added processes will require additional site visits, tracking, financial management, and inventory maintenance. Implementing the permit fee and tree replacement fund should provide an increase in revenue that could help the department meet the additional responsibilities. We make recommendations to implement the city tree management regulations permit process and replacement ratios, add provisions for new plantings in the regulation. We also make recommendations to support the tree management regulation by assigning responsibility and authority for implementation within the department, clarifying aspects of the tree fund, communicating the regulation and expectations to all city departments, and evaluating staffing needs. We make recommendations to improve the tree inventory. This includes developing a written process for maintaining the data and seeking grant funding to assist with the tree inventory. The Director of Parks agreed with 2 of our recommendations and agreed in part with 7 of our recommendations. And we believe that implementing the recommendations will help the department achieve better city tree management, preserve more city trees, and eventually increase the city's tree canopy. I want to thank staff and management in the Parks Department for their assistance and cooperation throughout the audit. And this concludes my presentation.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
You're welcome.
I've got a couple of questions.
Me too.
This all relates to AR 5.7, right?
Correct.
Which was adopted in 2020,
2021, let me double check.
2021?
March of
Master
21.
plan was 2020.
March of 2021.
Correct.
Was there any funding attached to this substantial additional responsibility that was attempted to be placed on the Parks Department?
We didn't see any, and that's where we made the recommendation that the department identify for you and the council and the city manager what the cost could be, what the resource need is, so that you can put that in a budget request.
There wasn't any investigation by the city management as to how much this might cost, adding all of these additional responsibilities to the Parks staff and department?
I can't answer to that one, but I do know that Parks staff had been involved with the development of that AR since its inception, going back into 2018. So Parks staff had been involved, and maybe that was prior Parks management. But as far as telling the city manager what they thought the cost would be. I don't know if they've done that.
Because as I read this, this would be substantial additional costs for the Parks Department. And of course, we're underfunded and understaffed right now, just trying to keep up with our historic responsibilities for maintaining and supporting the existing Parks Department. So how do we address that?
And again, that's where we recommended that the department identify the resource needs, money, staff, present that to the city manager and the city council, as well as you to look at, and identify grant opportunities such as the Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act had some money that could be applied for a grant that could do a tree inventory. And I think I've heard staff talk about looking at other grants and maybe putting in some applications. So there are some potential funding sources outside of city funding sources and the tree fund for folks that instead of not tearing down or taking a tree out, they would pay into if they don't replace a tree, and that could be additional funding that could help the department manage and maintain the tree canopy.
Well, my question is connected to that in reading this and listening to you, just, really curious. I think ideally recommendations that don't have a funding prospect miss the mark because it can feel as if, it's so easy to do, but in reality, it all has a funding implication. And so I would just say it would be helpful to notate that in a meaningful way within this so we can have more ownership, or everybody can play more into the accountability of really doing what is best as it relates to our community and trees, because it's so important, right?
Correct. And that's why we made the recommendation that the department do that work to tell you what it would cost so that you can tell the city manager and the city council what that cost is. So we did not ignore that there's a cost. We just putting it to management because they're the experts on what that's going to take to do. And they can come back to you and say, here's what it will take. And then you take that to the mayor and council and the city manager.
Well, that is just my observation and recommendation, because ideally, we're all on the same team. And so everybody has an expertise and a role in really making sure we do what is best for our city. So do you have some other
No, go ahead.
questions? I'm curious about this implement the permit process. Who would be paying these permits? Is this residential? Tell me more about that. I may have missed it.
This AR was specifically for city-owned trees.
Okay.
And so let's say the water department's doing a project and they're going to tear out trees, so they can either pay to replace the trees, the water department, or they could pay into the tree fund and getting that set up. And part of that is the permit, having a permit process in place so that we know what the tree is, that Parks knows what it is, that the tree is the type of tree that we want, because we don't want the same species planted throughout the whole city. So it's species diversity, where it's planted, how it should be planted. Those are some of the policies and procedures that the Parks Department has, what they're looking for when it comes to a tree. And that's where that money would go. And the permit process, get that set up so you can track those. And eventually, I think the city has passed an ordinance looking at what's happening with the private trees in the private sector and trying to get our house in order through this AR. And I don't know how that permit process may be used for the private sector to let us know what they're doing with their trees.
Do you know if there's any existing, maybe in another domain, but within the city, where that model is used, where one city entity permits or, imposes a fee on another? Like, is that model successful within it, especially if it's a recommendation? I'm curious from you all's view how viable that is.
I haven't looked at other permit processes, and we were auditing to the administrative regulation that was issued by the city manager and had involvement of staff from Parks and other city departments. So that's what we were looking at to say. It said there should be a process for permits, and we didn't see it in place. And we know the department does need some help implementing that process. There are permitting processes when you're building in the city planning department, Compass KC. I'm not sure if, I would suspect that if you're doing something in your water department, building something, you probably have to go through the permit process, because I know of water charges for water for, other city government agencies to use the water services. So it's not unlikely that permits are charged to whoever needs the permit.
within the
It's
same
possible, but again,
entity.
I haven't looked at that, so I can't give you a certainty on it. It's,
Yeah, but you
It-
see
it-
where I'm going. I think once again, this is kind of tying back to the importance that when we have, I mean, this is meant to be a tool, not just a pass on, like, we did our part, now, that we work collaboratively. And so that's why I'm curious about if there's any best practices or anything that really substantiate the recommendations. I mean, but I appreciate the brain trust.
right. And again, we didn't just decide what we were going to audit against. We looked for
Right.
what is supposed to be the criteria, and that was the administrative regulation.
Did you have any questions?
I do, so like with the staffing analysis that's being recommended, what does that capacity look like for us, director and deputy directors?
Well, currently Stephen's not even staffed to maintain all of the trees that are on Park's property and the park boulevards, let alone the city as a whole. Stephen requested 5 new positions out of the general fund to help with this, and he was given 1. And the response is more along the lines of, well, let's see how that 1 goes and see how it does before we staff out the rest of the positions. Again, most of our staff is paid for out of the park sales tax, which limits what their ability to work on. So we do have some other funding sources. There are some other departments that reimburse Stephen for some of the stuff that he does, but we are in no way, shape, or form set up to take this on. Not that we're going to shy away from it, but also understand when this AR was passed, when I showed up, Stephen was doing houseless camp monitoring, and that was his primary mission when I got here, so he wasn't even focused on trees. So I didn't know about the AR until the audit came out, and then my response all along, and this isn't a detriment to Doug or anything he's trying to do, all along I've said we are not staffed for this. We aren't even close to being staffed for this. Now, that's not an excuse, that's a fact. We don't have the bodies. That being said, Stephen and I are working on it, and it's something that we are going to address, but it's not going to be immediate fix. There has been no monitoring. He's not wrong. Other departments are doing whatever they want with the trees, and our department finds out about it secondary. After the trees have already been removed, Stephen will come to me and say, hey, did you know this project happened? We had no idea. So there's a lot of legwork to do on our end.
Given our shortage of staffing, how long do you think it would take to provide a specific response to this audit as to what it would cost and how much staffing would be required to implement this AR?
Good afternoon.
Hi, Stephen.
So yes, we are working on that right now. We are putting together a proposal. We met with the city manager. We're putting together a proposal by the end of the month that should have a dollar amount attached to that. It's largely going to be based off of the urban forest master plan. So some of this work had been done during that time. That plan lays out pretty clearly what we need in forestry to properly manage the urban forest canopy that we have. And I would say that the dollar amounts in that are out of date already. It suggested we have $1 million a year up to $5 million added on. So we put our entire budget to closer to $10 million. I'd say we're closer to looking at 12 to 14 million if we were to fully take over everything we're supposed to do according to that. That being said, we're not going to get that number. And some of this money can come through this permit process for both the AR and also the new ordinance, which we're not even talking about today. This is just on the AR, but the new tree preservation ordinance is a whole nother layer of onus on us to manage that as well that's been passed. So that being said, I think we have a dollar amount what we need for that. And then in terms of staffing, the 5 forester positions that I had put in for, we had pretty clear duties assigned to those in terms of tracking the different components of these things we're not doing. So tracking the planting, tracking the contracts associated with planting, tracking the removals, and communicating with the different city departments on where removals are happening. Doing all that, we would require that 5 extra staff people. We could probably do it with 4, but if we were really to make it easier on ourselves, 5 would be a number we could really be effective at. So we're going to get the new position that's been appointed. We're going to get that hired and see where that goes. We should have the permit process in place. We've had some difficulties outlining how the money's going to be, where the money's going to flow and where it's going to end up as these permits, as the money comes in. And there's still some questions about how bond money can be spent outside of a specific bond project. So if a bond project removes so many trees and you can't plant them back on that same site, can that money then be spent to plant trees someplace else? That's a question that still remains open for the legal department to help us figure out. Okay, that being said, we've also applied for a $35 million grant over 5 years through the Inflation Reduction Act in conjunction with the Office of Environmental Quality, OEQ. We applied for that. It will help, it will basically do what the Urban Forest Master Plan recommends, but just for the portion of the city that was in their EJ area, which is the federal proposal has a grayed out area of the city that they consider the environmental justice portions of it. And so it accounts for about 20 to 30% of the overall square miles of the city. So
Only 20%?
20 to 30% of, yeah, because it doesn't include anything in the Northland. So that entire area up there is outside the EJ area, and everything west, but basically west of Troost, doesn't get included. So it's largely reflects the LIFEX district zip codes that we have.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the area that would apply to. It will do an amazing amount of work if we get that awarded. It'll basically take care of the inventory for that section of the city. It'll take care of all of our preventative tree maintenance that we'd have for those 5 years. It would really get us back on track for that section. It doesn't account for the rest of the.
Would it
our
adjust
city.
staffing as well? Because that
Yes.
was my question about the communication plan and enforcement. So communication and enforcement plan, right? So starting a new initiative, how will we be able to enforce what we're talking about? And then just preventively or preliminarily, what is the communication plan?
Right. I don't have a great answer for the communication plan yet because we wanted to get the permit in place and all the machinations out before we go talk to the other city departments, so we have a specific course for them to take.
Right.
So I didn't want to go and have these meetings and talk about how they're going to have to pay us for trees and then not be able to tell them exactly how they're going to have to do that. So we're waiting to get that first. The second part of the staffing part is part of the grant we did put in for, I'm going to forget if it's 2 or 3, I think it was 2 forester positions. And the forester positions are not our tree trimmers. To be clear, that's the Alice Hannon, Kevin Lapointe. They're people with forestry degrees. So that we have put in for 2 for that to help us manage the grant and manage the processes that would happen during the grant period of 5 years. And then ideally, we were hoping that we could parlay those positions being termed with the grant into actual permanent positions at some point with general funds. Yeah, I'd say we definitely need those to truly track everything. We need the extra forester positions to be able to really do a good job of tracking all that different. It increases our responsibilities. The way the audit is, we typically have been responsible for, the boulevards, parkways, the street trees in the right of way in the park system. It really kind of says now we're responsible for any city tree on any city property across the entire city. So I don't know if that's always been our authority, but in practice, that has not been a thing Parks has been doing. And so it really kind of expands the number of trees that are our responsibility at this point to quite a few. And I did a really rough estimate. It's, another 400,000 trees that are our responsibility, which is huge. So is it an expansion of our current
Is
level
that
of
double
work?
or triple or?
At least double, probably. Well, it's hard. It's
imagine
pretty
more.
hard. It's really rough estimates. I mean, we're in addition to that, we have applied for some other small money to do some of the inventory work that we need to do, but inventories are always a moving target. They are out of date by the time you almost get them completed because it takes time to complete them. But so we'll never have a perfectly accurate inventory of every tree we've done.
What's the timeline of these grants? Just curious.
We should know in October if we get the 35 million from IRA. And so I'm really crossing my fingers now. It would be a pretty significant work for us to get that and go a long way to getting a lot of good work done on a part of the community that historically has been underserved. So
Who's doing the grant writing?
we did it in conjunction with some people from some of the staff at OEQ. Actually, one of the neighborhoods folks helped us out too, and our staff, we all wrote together. So it was a
So
joint
we
effort.
never filled that position yet.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So, no, it was, and myself and Kevin Lapointe, we did a lot of the technical writing on it, and then some of the logistical stuff was done by. So we're very excited about it. We've also had support from OEQ to help us manage the grant once we get it in. which was important because we basically said to them, this is great, but we really don't have the capacity to even manage the grant.
Right.
So they were nice and stepped up and said they will help us with grant management and reporting and whatnot. So it was a good joint effort from everybody on that.
Anything further for Mr. Van Ryn?
Thank you for
No,
everything that you do.
I appreciate that.
Sure, thank you.
Overview.
Anything else for me?
Anything for Mr. Jones?
I'm still gonna really advocate that in the recommendations, that there's an acknowledgement of the expansion of responsibility that is outside of the current scope of the budget, and that, I mean, you see how on slide 8, you have the 4 recommendations, which of course
Those are highly summarized, yes.
right, but because of the significant budget difference, adding part of that recommendation that there is an expanded budget that will be needed to fully scope that. So while it may be touched on in here, because this is everybody's little go-to and cheat sheet, just like it was for me.
There's more detail in the audit report on page 10 itself, and it talks about this is an increase.
I
And
agree.
and that's why we made the recommendation to do that evaluation, because it is an increase in responsibility.
Yeah, Mr.
So
Jones,
we
I
did not,
agree.
so we did not ignore
I hear
that as a
you.
responsibility.
I'm just asking or recommending that it be put on your the cheat sheet.
Oh, well,
Thank you.
this is the last presentations that we're doing on this one, so
Yes.
we're all good.
While we've got you here, Mr. Jones, on
Yes.
a related subject, have you ever done an audit of how the use tax is applied? And the reason I ask that is, the parks sales tax portion of the use tax, which is a half cent, is being diverted to the general fund and not transferred to the parks fund, which is how the voters approved it.
Right.
The use tax, as you know, is a compilation of the various voter-approved sales taxes collected on out-of-town orders, et cetera. And a half cent of that is the park sales tax, which was approved by the voters of Kansas City, Missouri, but we believe as much as $10 million a year may be diverted from the Parks Department to the general fund. Have you ever done an audit of that?
Not on that one. The last time we looked at the sales and use tax was my first tour duty back in the 90s, where we were looking at refunds and things. So
This might be a great
Yeah.
opportunity.
Look at you, came to learn about
hey,
opportunities.
you can always send us an audit suggestion. We're actually going to start collecting audit topics from management. We always collect topics from the public, and so
Well, that may be at the top of the list.
But Jack, we did. Remember, I asked for an audit when I first started on this
Yeah,
very
actually.
thing.
so
You
you can.
understand if someone goes into CVS on Broadway and spends $100, 50 cents of that goes to parks. If they order something from CVS on Broadway and it gets delivered and they pay use tax, we don't get that 50 cents.
Amazon.
So I would suggest please send that in again, because we wipe the list clean and start with a new slate every season.
Okay.
So please
Certainly
send
help
that.
us.
in.
Even if
long
it
way
doesn't
to-
get met, it still gets wiped?
Yeah, we generally are looking what's happening now, things that we can look at and add some value. So I do appreciate that as an audit topic, as a reminder, and we'll get that added to the
Those
list.
revenues would certainly help us comply with
Oh,
this AR.
absolutely.
So if nothing else, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank
Jones, we
you.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Guys, have a good afternoon.
You know,
Okay.
that's a good.
Good business.
Did you?
Next
It looks
order of
like you have a hand.
Pardon me?
I'm
Oh.
not sure.
Oh, hi, I have another protocol here. Do you allow comments and questions from?
We do at the end of the meeting, but were you here specifically to talk about trees?
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead, we'll accelerate you. Would you please identify yourself, and
Okay, thank you very much.
we've got 2 minutes.
Yeah, my name's Karen Newlandhood. I live in Midtown, and I've been planting trees in my neighborhood for years. And I'm really interested in getting more trees in town. I think the city's made it clear that they want more trees. We need more trees for climate purposes and others. I have a couple questions. The permit process seems to be important here, and I'm not quite sure where that stands. Did Stephen Van Ryn say he's working on that now?
He's working on it.
He's working on it.
He's working on it.
Because that would be a means of generating revenue for the department, right? So it seems like getting money is really important. The $1 million that the council approved for trees for the next 3 years, what's going on with that money?
We don't know.
Yeah, that
don't
would be
know.
a council question.
Because it went to the neighborhood department?
We don't know, we've not been made aware of
No,
that.
it did, that money went, some of that did go to the neighborhood department.
Which is outside the jurisdiction
Of
of
us.
this.
You don't know anything about it, even though it's going for trees and we're all about trees here today? Okay.
You're echoing some of the opportunity, right, in having a more connected system.
Well, I mean, that's for trees, and we're talking about how to get more trees, and you need money, and, anyway, okay, I guess there's not communication going on about that. Well, also, I just want to say that I do sometimes think that maybe things can be done more cheaply than the city does them. I personally will be getting 30 trees for free in October from Forest Relief over in St. Louis. They will bring them to Swope Park. And I have gathered up some friends who will be planting the trees, as we did last October. We're going to plant them downtown this time on 11th and 12th Street in boxes that are empty. It's my understanding that the city will only pay for really big trees, like 15-foot trees or something. Is that right? Is that the park department policy? Trees have to be planted big?
No, not necessarily, I mean.
You're okay with 3-foot trees?
I need to do some research on that, but 3-foot trees,
Maybe bring Steve back.
yeah.
What's that?
I was saying, or
Yeah.
perhaps we should bring
Rob,
Steve back so that he can hear these questions. And I don't want to make an assumption that there is the same understanding about how things work within the city. And so for me, for clarification,
Yeah.
when you are referencing the city, it would be important to me if you're talking about the city or this particular department. And that may take just maybe some additional, a quick overview of really how all of these entities work together. So when you say the city, do you mean Parks and Recs Department or?
I think I more mean like the city council and
Okay,
the larger picture.
okay.
But I read online that, okay, the park department requires planting of big trees.
Hi, we have a resident.
I am unclear what the policy is about what kind of trees are to be planted next to the street. Is it like 12, 15-foot trees? Is it 3-foot trees?
Well, never, as far as short as 3 foot, it depends a lot on if there's overhead lines, how much space there is between the sidewalk and the curb, the available planting space. So it's anything from a large canopy tree of, 60 to 100 feet tall to trees that grow 20, 25 feet tall.
I'm talking
Go
about the
each
size
lines.
at the time of planting.
Oh, sorry, no, the size of planting, they're roughly, depends a little bit on who's doing the project. So if it's a project that's being done by a private entity that's done some construction and has to do some street tree planting, so like a developer, sometimes they put in slightly larger trees, so bold and burlap. So they could be as tall, as big as we call a 3-inch caliper tree. That's measure. Typically, what we plant are 2-inch caliper trees that are in containers, not bold and burlap, because they have a lot longer they have better longevity. They tend to adapt to the transplanting stress better. So we're going with smaller trees that will eventually catch up and be bigger and healthier trees in the long run. That's our current planting method. There are still some bold and burlap trees that can plant.
Mr. Van Ryn, I'm sorry. In the interest of time, I'm curious, where can community members find this information, all of these kind of guidelines? Is there an accessible public space?
It's on our website, planting.
Yeah, it's on,
And the
thank you.
types of trees.
Okay.
I was like,
Yeah.
is it on their website? Because I've never actually looked at it.
I mean,
Yeah,
just because, I would imagine that you may have more questions that will exceed the time, but I want to make sure that you are connected to the resource to know, so you can have that.
I did read online that the standards for planting street trees, I think that it requires large trees. And my point really is just this, there's a money problem. Why don't we plant more free trees? Okay, I get 3-foot trees from this place in St. Louis. I've been planting them for years. They're really good trees. They're easy to plant because they're small, and they do catch up. They catch up very quickly. So why don't we go with a cheaper way to reforest our city, get trees for free, try and get neighborhoods to help out, because I'm finding people will help, and we can get a lot of our reforestation done for much less money that way.
So, reserve relief over there, we can talk offline if you want, but They do give free trees for certain projects, but they're not going to provide us with free, we pay for our trees
From city to
because
city.
we're a large entity.
Right.
So we help support their free tree, the free trees they give away, we support through for our ability to be able to purchase trees. So we purchase from other nurseries. We can't rely on that as a source for the amount of trees we have to plant
Okay.
through them. So we don't get free trees. So that's why, and we do have we work with the Heartland Tree Alliance, which is
Yes.
part of Bridge and Gap, and they do community-based tree plantings, and they work with volunteers, and so that is one of our larger tree planting contracts is with them. That's how we kind of do that volunteer and hook into the communities through Heartland Tree Alliance. They do that work for us.
Right,
Yeah, so we do a lot of that. If you want to we can talk more. If you have more questions, I don't want to interrupt you, but we can.
Yeah,
I'll
we
gladly
gotta
talk
get
to you
going.
as much as you want to talk about trees.
Okay, that's fine. Just one other real quick comment. You guys probably know that the city council recently, a few months ago, passed a tree protection ordinance, which was watered down. It really was eviscerated by the development community. But if and when that actually takes effect, and maybe it will next March, I don't know, the developers, if they don't want to maintain the trees that they have, they can pay money into the tree fund. And I really think that in the interest of getting more money, that the park department should weigh in very strongly in favor of getting the tree protection ordinance to take effect ASAP. I don't think that I don't think it's resulted in anything since it was passed in March. So that's almost a half a year. So you guys need money. Developers who cut down trees will need to pay money. I would suggest that the park department make it very clear that you want that ordinance to be enforced with developers.
It's actually our responsibility to make sure it's enforced. That is one of the things we've been working on doing. So we are in charge of
Okay.
making sure that process goes forward, and it has started. We've gotten some money out of that already. So
Okay.
yeah, we are receiving some funds from that process, and as it moves forward, we'll continue to do that. It's unclear how much we're going to get. As you said, it was very watered down and changed, so there isn't going to be a lot. But we'll wait and see how much that actually translates into actual dollars for us. So,
Okay.
we are doing that, yeah.
It just seems like it would be in the interest of the park department to make that ordinance as strong as possible when it comes back up next March.
Yeah.
It will.
I will say this, our forester was at the adoption of that, and he had some perhaps too strong wording to say about the reduction of the fees that we're going to be charged, but
Right.
we were strong advocates for the existing one, and it was changed quite a bit to
Quite a
allow
bit.
the process, but it'll still
It's
be better than,
243.
it's still
Yep.
a very good step forward for us as a city to have a tree preservation ordinance, and it will result in some trees being preserved and also more trees being planted, so.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Penbrand. Thank you for your
Thank you
time.
very much.
Appreciate it. Next order of business is Resolution 32289, considering board approval of a new offering at the Go Ape Treetop Adventures in Swope Park called Haunted Trails, as outlined in Attachment C.
Thank you.
Welcome. This is a follow-up to the last meeting. Go Ape did respond with their pricing, and their offering is the lowest in the city, which was great to see. And Becky from that organization also just had a couple, she said, we're below competitors in terms of pricing, and as this will be our first year of offering, we're very cautious with our pricing approach. This has allowed us to get feedback this year and ensure continued equitable approaches in the future.
Thank you for that
Thanks for the
follow-up.
follow-up.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we
I
have a
was
motion?
surprised how low it was
Yeah.
compared to other areas. Like, that's great.
If you just a quick note, if you look at their pricing compared to like Treetop Adventures Zipline, they are in the lower, and they're successful that way too. And it's a great thing to have going on in Swope Park. It's a great amenity up there.
And it's a great analysis for us to ask, because as community members ask us, we have data to really substantiate it. So with that, I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on Resolution 32289. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The resolution's adopted.
Thank you very much.
Next order of business is Resolution 32297, considering board approval of facility use with concession agreement with Waldo Area Business Association for the use of Gregory Boulevard between Warnell Road and Brookside Road to hold the 31st Annual Waldo Fall Festival on September 16, 2023, as outlined in Attachment D. Mr. Loya.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. The Waldo Area Business Association wishes to enter into a facility use concession agreement for the annual event, the 31st Annual Waldo Fall Festival, which is a family-friendly neighborhood festival with all the standard merchandise, food, food trucks, music. Let's see. Compensation would be $1,000 for the one-day event to the Kansas City Parks and Recs Department, and they are expecting about 3,500 in attendance.
Any questions for Mr. Loya?
No, move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second on Resolution 32297. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The resolution is adopted. Next order of business, Resolution 32298, considering board approval of facility use with concession agreement with Art as membership for the use of Concourse Park to hold the Celebrate Americana Festival on September 10th, 2023, as outlined in Attachment E. Mr. Loya.
Thank you. The Celebrate Americana Festival will include national and regional acts focusing on musical performances and dancers that have been impacted by this organization's educational outreach, the Artist Mentorship Organization. They are requesting to enter into this use and concession agreement for the use of Concord Park, and the date of the event is September 10th. It is a free event in Concourse Park in the historic and northeast neighborhood, making this event even more accessible to one of Kansas City's most diverse neighborhoods. They're expecting about 2,000 participants, one-day event.
I have questions. I recall this is an event that's happened before, correct?
I don't know
For
if
sure
in
last
parks,
year.
but other places, yes.
Not a free event.
Okay, and so that's one of my questions, with something of this magnitude where they were like nominated for a Grammy and things like that, would there not be an opportunity for parks to get some revenue from something like this?
And, we will be a sponsor for the event.
Which means we're helping them, they're not helping us.
That is correct.
Okay. Another question is, with items like this that are recurring, what is the current, guidelines for them to submit for a permit? Because I feel like some of these events that we get, resolutions to approve are like a day or two before. I know this is like a month, but some of the things that we get, it's like, oh, this starts tomorrow. And at that point, it's like, well, what if we don't approve it to start tomorrow? We don't want to let the community down if we have questions and things like that. So would you be able to bring us items that are like recurring earlier? If this Americana has been advertised a few months in advance, could we approve it sooner?
Yes, it just all depends on when we actually get the request. I try to get these memos in where I look at the date of the actual event happening, and I try to get it in as soon as possible, a memo on the next agenda item then for you guys to
I
approve.
mean, like for them to submit it sooner, since they
Oh.
plan these way in advance, so that we could,
Kind of.
like today, we're running
You're
out of
saying
time.
create a standard.
Yes,
that
like
is-
if we have a current,
30
Currently
days?
it's 30 days.
30 days right now, so
Okay.
We can
possibly change that to earlier.
like especially there, oh, sorry.
Vendors start advertising before they even come to Park Board or even
Yeah.
contact us.
Mhm.
That's what
See
I'm
it on a
saying,
regular
like,
basis.
they're counting on this event to take place there, and we haven't even heard about it.
But it's-
I have been talking with them for quite some time about transitioning from a paid event at a different location and moving it into the park. But we just now brought it to approval. I could have brought it earlier, you're right. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, just
Oh,
for.
you're saying you had awareness of it
Yeah,
and,
I'm working with Enrique Chi on the event with Making Movies.
Yeah, and I'm not
It's
talking just,
beneficial to us to be a sponsor of the event.
mm-hmm,
yeah.
yeah. I was just speaking like in general for events that are recurring, if we could get them in sooner.
We can sure try.
Like routine and events that we.
Yeah, like things, we have like the Irish Festival, I think
Yeah,
that was on
otherwise
here
it's really
too.
not a meaningful request. If it's already been advertised, then you're just looking for a rubber stamp. If it is really the benefit to have a commission to work in tandem with these things, then having them done in a timely manner, 30, 60 days or before they start getting marketed, then that actually really creates more collaboration than just expecting us to approve everything that's put forth. That's what I'm
understand.
hearing.
Yeah, and because that would make us look really bad too. For example, you had questions about this Go Ape and we needed more time. So if it's something that's, supposed to start next week and Commissioner Smith had questions, and now we're like 2 weeks before it gets approved, you know, the word on the street would be like, oh, well, you know, the parks, the commissioners like turn it down, and it's an event for, you know, Black, Indigenous, immigrant communities. Like, that would also look bad, that we're rejecting some of these.
Yeah, it's a process, and there's a lot of paperwork and communication and things that have to be handed in before we even get to bring it to you.
Yeah.
And so it has to go on both sides, like they've got to get the information to us before we can bring it to
Right.
you. So,
Yeah.
you know, we can certainly, you know, request it even earlier, but it
Yeah.
does take time.
That's what I'm hearing. I'm not hearing Commissioner Rico Perez chastise you all as
Absolutely not.
employees.
Yeah.
I think what I hear her saying is, can you all set a manager expectation that it is a 60-day layout that gives you all the time that then honors this process? That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
That's
we can do
exactly
that,
what
but
you're hearing, yeah.
What do we do when it comes in at 30 days?
Well, then that would be part of, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the forestry and enforcement. Then that means that you may have a season of denying or, you know, saying that people need to push back. But that goes back into the communication. And so maybe sending out communications about the importance of more timely entries that can help this whole process. So I think it's a
Absolutely.
shared responsibility across the board.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Anything further on 32298?
I heard you say this is a benefit for us. Can you talk more about that benefit? You were saying that,
I think it's beneficial for us to be involved as a sponsor of this project because it's an amazing and incredible event. And it's got Grammy Award-winning musicians participating in it. There's going to be a PBS documentary about it, and for us to be, you know, up there as stakeholders in this first-time free festival in the historic Northeast that celebrates that community, I think it's truly a benefit for us, not necessarily financially, but definitely PR-wise. And I'm really excited about it.
good, thank you. I think it was important to have that on record, so thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I have no other questions. Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion second on resolution 32298. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The resolution is adopted. Next order of business, resolution 32299, considering board approval of facility use with concession agreement with the Kansas City Irish Fest for the use of Washington Square Park to hold the 2023 Irish Fest September 1st through September 3rd, 2023, as outlined in attachment F.
Again, this is another annual event. If there's any questions, they expect attendance of, oops, sorry. I thought I had that on there, I apologize. Again, another annual event, if there are any questions about that.
Thank you. Any questions on this item?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on resolution 32299. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The resolution is adopted. Next order of business is resolution 32300, considering board approval of a facility use with concession agreement with Poetry for Personal Power for the use of the Swope Park Bandstand to hold their event on September 1st, 2023, as outlined in attachment G.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt?
Celia?
Ms. Heidi, so for the Americana, you know, I noticed for the Irish event, it says we're going to have KCPD, KCFD, FBI, all of that. Is that not something we're having for this other festival?
Yes, they have security.
So that includes all of that?
I don't think we'll have FBI.
Why do we have FBI for the Irish festival, but not for the
don't know.
Northeast?
But that was in their,
You know,
You heard the troubles?
the trouble Irish?
Northern Ireland.
There will definitely be security and police present and maybe possibly park ranger presence at the Fiesta Marathon. It just didn't get.
No FBI.
I don't think so.
Okay, so would
We're
it
on
be worth?
32300.
No, just wanted to know like what it meant, you know.
Move to approve.
Yeah, second.
We have a motion and a second on resolution 32300. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no.
Sorry, Rob.
It's okay. Thank you for your time.
Next order of business is Resolution 32301, considering board approval of a facility use without concession agreement with Line Creek Figure Skating for the use of Line Creek Community Center as outlined in attachment H.
Good afternoon. I'm going
Hi,
to fill in for
Jody.
Jen, so I'll get to stand up here for a little bit. The Line Creek Figure Skating Club is requesting the use to utilize Line Creek Community Center. This is the limited purpose of conducting youth and adult ice skating lessons, clinics, camps, test sessions, practices, special events during the term of this lease. The activities will take place Sunday, 1:45 p.m. to 2:45 p.m., and then 4:15 to 5:15, Thursdays 7:10 to 8:10, and Saturday 6:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. The Line Creek Figure Skating Club will compensate at the rate of $300 an hour, with payments due on or before the 20th of each month. Total compensation for this agreement is approximately $74,100, and the term of the lease would be September 1st through August 31st of 2024. Insurance will be provided per city requirements, and this group has been working with Line Creek, providing this service for about 8 years now.
Counselor, would there be any objection to us considering item 8 through item 14 all at once, since they all relate to prior concession agreements for Line Creek?
Discuss them, but you have to vote on each one separately.
Okay,
It's okay.
Discuss them all together.
I'm happy to talk about
Okay.
ice skating all day long.
let's just, okay, that's all right, I mean, I
We've done it before.
think we have.
Got it.
Yeah, because
But that's all right, we can, so is there anything different from item 8 or item 14? We'll take the vote separately, but
yeah.
in order to, in the interest of time,
Yeah.
they seem all the
I've
same.
reviewed all of them.
Essentially, it's
too.
$300 per hour. That's the main piece, is that's consistent rate across the board. Obviously, the total compensation is dependent upon the usage and everything else, so those will vary. The contract lengths are roughly the exact same time, some point in time early September to the end of August of 2024, and that's pretty much the gist of all of them.
Question, does it preclude community members being able to use, or just during that time?
So just during that time is the specified use time for that group. You'll notice that several of them are adult contracts, which typically take place later in the evenings. That is designed on purpose, that they will have leagues and stuff like that taking place at 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. But otherwise, we do have standard times for general skate times, so the public does have access to that. And then we also have special events where we earmark time specified for that to ensure that the public has access to the rink.
Thank you.
If I can add to that, there is in the contract, there is a clause that says that the city can access the premises when they're not using it, so it's stated in there.
Yeah, in the instance that they cancel for some reason, then at that point in time, we will take that time and we will re-advertise it as public open skate time.
Okay, I'm sorry, do you work for the city?
Yeah, I wrote these board minutes.
Okay, great, thank you.
This is Brad.
Hi, Brad, I don't know that
For the first time.
Yeah, I was gonna,
okay, it's nice meeting you.
So, but these contracts are all basically the same as they were last year, just the dates have changed and
Right.
that kind of thing, it's the same thing.
I just wanted to know who I was speaking with. Okay, we're ready
Same.
for the call.
Okay, and by the way, Line Creek's one of our highest cost recovery facilities in the entire system.
Very good.
It is. They work
We have a
long,
motion
hard
on,
hours during the winter months.
do we have a resolution?
Move to approve.
We have a motion.
for
to
the whole
approve-
slate, or just
We
individually?
gotta do these
I heard
individually.
individually.
Yeah, okay.
Resolution 32301, we have a motion and a second.
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Resolution 32302, do we have a motion
Move to approve.
Second.
and a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Resolution 32303, do we have a motion? We have a
Second.
motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. The next item is Resolution 32304. We need a motion
Move to approve.
and a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on Resolution 32304. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Resolution is adopted. Next order is Resolution 32305. Do we have a motion?
Three.
We have a motion,
Move
Did you
to,
say
for
third?
32303.
32305. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Did we skip one?
No.
Oh, okay.
We need another.
Voted on it.
I'm not able to, I'm not seeing. So you're talking about the
Three, two-
Kansas City Youth Hockey?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the one we're currently on. We have a motion. We don't have a second yet.
Right. Did we already do 03 and 04?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Yes, I move to approve.
We have a motion and a second on Resolution 32305. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The resolution is adopted. Next order is Resolution 32306. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
We
Second.
have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The resolution is adopted. Next order is Resolution 32307. We have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
We have
Second.
a motion and a second on Resolution 32307. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The resolution is adopted. And I believe that takes care of Line Creek Community Center.
I said I missed these two.
Next order of business is considering approval of a cooperative agreement with Community Capital Fund, the NIA project Black Women Get Fit 2023 for the use of Southeast Community Center as outlined in attachment O.
The NIA project.
Yes, that is still me. I was just double checking because on here it says Southeast, but on here it says Greg Kleiss.
Right.
So I was just wanting to double,
So which
one
one's
of
right?
those locations.
Great
Greg
Kleiss.
Kleiss, okay. So it will be at Greg Kleiss Community Center. The NIA project is sponsored organization in the Community Capital Fund and is focused on improving the lives of Black girls and women in Kansas City, accomplished by supporting and creating projects that build confidence, capacity, and opportunity. Black Women Get Fit is the NIA project's signature program in its sixth year with the twin goals of identifying and supporting Black women-owned businesses. The event also provides a platform that introduces women to wellness experiences that address the healing of minds, bodies, and souls. Participation in the past has ranged from 200 to 400 women. This event will take place on Saturday, September 30th, 2023. Will be held at Greg Kleiss Community Center from 8 a.m. until noon. It'll include educational workshops, fitness demonstrations. The NIA project will have use of the entire facility at that time at no cost. The NIA project is required to have a certificate of insurance per city requirements, and the terms of the agreement are for that one day, September 30th, from 8 a.m. until noon.
Thank you, Jody. Any questions on this item?
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A
Item
second.
32308, we have a motion, a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The resolution is adopted. Next order of business is Resolution 32309, considering board approval of an agreement with Crossroads Preparatory Academy for the use of Garrison Community Center for volleyball and basketball practice as outlined in attachment P. Jody?
Yes, Crossroads Preparatory Academy is wanting the use of Garrison Community Center Gymnasium for youth basketball and volleyball during the months of August, September, and October. Sessions will take place Monday through Thursday during the term of the agreement. They will take place from 2:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. in August, 3:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. in September and October. The city will be compensated for, at $50 per hour for the use of the facility. The total compensation is projected to be $2,975, payable by the 20th of the following month. This agreement will start on August 14th, 2023, and will end no later than October 18th, 2023. Crossroads Preparatory Academy will provide insurance per city requirements.
Any questions regarding this item?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, a second on Resolution 32309. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The resolution is approved.
Thank you, Jody.
Next order of business is Resolution 32310, considering board approval of Amendment Number 3 with SK Design Group, Inc. for the Blue River Connector Trail Segment 2 project in the amount of $154,910 and extend the contract time to December 22nd, 2024, as outlined in Attachment Q. Mr. Wall.
Commissioners,
The Indian Creek Trail, the Trolley Trail, and the Blue River Trails are the major trail segments in South Kansas City. The Blue River Trail comes from Minor Park and it stops at 95th Street. And the Trolley Truck Trail comes down from the plaza, it stops at 85th Street. So there's a missing link between 85th and 85th Street and 95th Street. So the Trolley Blue River Connector Trail will eliminate this missing link. And this connector trail will be built in 2 phases. Phase A is done design-wise, so it will go in construction this winter. And phase 2 will be in final design pretty quick. So this Amendment 3 will provide construction inspection services for phase 1 and will provide design services for phase 2. And those are funded with PIKE funding, so no parks sales tax will go into this design and construction.
Okay. Any questions on this item?
None for me. Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on Resolution 32310. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The resolution is adopted. Next order of business is Resolution 32311, considering the board approval of a bid award to Mason Water Slides for the Mary Williams Neal Community Center water slide in the amount of $95,400 as outlined in Attachment R. Mr. Wong.
Commissioners, this project will install a 77-foot-long spiral tube slide at the Mary Williams Neal Community Center. It will be placed on the west end of the pool. So our goal is trying to get this installed as soon as the pool season is over, it's closed, so we can lock in this year's price, and we can do the rest testing and training. So we got we sent a request proposal from 7 vendors, and Mason Water Slides, they're the lowest and responsible bidder. And this is going to be funded from 2 parts of funding sources. 88,800 will be from PIKE funding, and then only 6,600 from deferred maintenance, which is our funding. PIKE is not our funding source. So we'll try to get it done in the next 90 days.
You said once the pool is closed?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we
Once
want to
the
have that
season
closed.
ends.
Yeah, the season ends, which will be late August. Then we're going to start construction, and we'll get it done in 3 months.
I'm
That's the goal.
glad to see, us meeting PIAC funds and getting things done expeditiously, so this is good.
Thank you.
I have a sidebar question. When is the renaming ceremony?
That was my question.
Is that on the commissioners?
No, I didn't know that.
I didn't know if it had already happened.
We're still trying to line up the due dates for the plaque and the monument sign. So those have been ordered, and we're still waiting for confirmation on those dates.
Where did that date
Okay.
come from? I'm curious.
Oh, I reached out to city communications and Sheree reached out to the mayor's office and city manager.
Have we spoken with the family?
No.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
that
think you
would-
need to hold up with the mayor and city manager. We need to have to make sure the family's
Right.
aware. Ms. Williams.
Sorry.
That's okay, but
No
you
problem.
guys are working on it.
Yeah, we're trying to get it done, but that's the,
What was that preliminary?
November 7th.
Well, the plaque will not
The sign's
be
not gonna
ready,
here by then.
so I'm not.
I won't even be in town.
Yeah, we need the
Can
sign.
you work with Ms. Houston on this?
Please.
She's in communication with the family.
Yes,
Yeah, let's
I
not,
would like to be there.
Okay.
Yes.
yeah, we all would, yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, when I
thank
saw
you.
it.
Okay.
But that was a side question, so we moved to approve.
Yes.
Thank you,
We have a
Commissioner.
motion and a second on Resolution 32311. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The resolution is adopted. Next order of business, Resolution 32312, considering board approval of FY 2024-25, 27-28 GO Bond Citywide Park Project List as outlined in Attachment S. Mr. Allen.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This list is part of the 5-year program that was passed by voters in November, allocating $80 million for park projects. City Council passed an ordinance where they allocated $60 million to each of the council districts at a level of $10 million each for in-district projects. And they allocated $20 million for citywide park projects that serve the city in a citywide, use. And so last year was year 1 of the program. They funded $5 million $250,000. And so today we're requesting approval to submit a list of projects to the budget office. And the list is over-programmed by 1 million, but the projects consist of 9th and Van Brunt for synthetic soccer field improvements, Blue Valley Park for master plan improvements, Bruce R. Watkins Connecting Park construction match. This is an earmarked project that would provide a community level park along Brush Creek. Funding for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Bridge that would connect the north and south sides of Brush Creek to the recently completed playground that was funded by Patrick Mahomes Foundation. The next one is Gage Park.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
for the sake of time, I know we discussed this at the
Yep.
workshop.
Yep.
Can we just approve it unless anybody else has questions?
Yep.
So you don't have to go line by line?
Okay.
Since
Yeah.
Well, we previously discussed it,
Well,
so
and
unless we, Lana,
have
do we
the
need to?
Yeah,
detail
we
in the
have the
packet, too.
attachment,
We
so,
reviewed it, yeah.
all right.
Want to save
Okay,
You're so
yeah.
thorough, thank
Yeah,
you.
but if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
No questions, but just would like to publicly state my consideration around Jarboe Pool as more and all information is considered. And I appreciate the additional dialogue about the importance of having this list and how it might change. But I do want to make sure that as our council persons and others look at this, that we take full consideration of all the data.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this item?
Move to approve?
Second.
We have a motion second on Resolution 23312. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion
Thank you.
is approved. Director's update is the next item on agenda.
Yes, thank you. The 63rd and Zoo Drive project, we're working with Public Works to transfer $423,000 from the Noland and 350 project to Parks for the completion of the Zoo Drive project. The MLK Park pedestrian bridge, we're working with the design team on location and types of the new bridge. Hodge Park waterline installation, the MWBE goal request will be submitted to CREO for review. Brookside wall repair, stonework on the face of the wall is over 60% complete. Blue River Trail construction is in progress. MLK parking lot construction is in progress. Extensive work was done by the parks crews on the Islas Davis Park for the mayor and council swearing-in ceremonies. We continue to run deforesters as often as possible for invasive species. We've been continuing storm cleanup effort in multiple parks. These efforts were secondary to the citizens cleanup and right-of-way cleanup, and we're getting ready for the Ethnic Festival, which runs August 18th through August 20th. Thank you.
We have any report on the pickleball play at Minor Park?
Packed. Packed.
Any update on the Spirit of Freedom fountain maintenance?
I do not have
Improvement.
a timeline yet on when those will be done. No, ma'am. I just know that they're underway, but I don't have but I can.
Everything's been submitted?
Yes, ma'am. But it's not. I don't have a timeline on when it'll be completed. The same company that's going to do those improvements for us is the same company that's finishing up the stonework on the retaining wall at Brookside.
And they haven't completed?
They're still working on that, and then they'll move over there. I'm assuming as soon as they're done with that. But the project is ordered.
Okay. And the reason why I want to connect those or ask that question, especially as we work to try to align that with any opportunity for the renaming and other, just that whole area. But so I look forward to the update.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
The waterfall looks great.
It does. Yes, the waterfall is up and running again. Yes.
Anything further for the director?
No, thank you.
No, I do have one piece, and we can follow up, but I do want to bring to record any update on the Paseo stairs, any updates. I know that there's been some emails around, but any?
I haven't worked on it since I got back from my mom's in Oklahoma. So
Okay.
and Richard just got back today, so we'll circle up this week and keep working on that.
Okay, thank you.
And I would like to learn more about that. I saw the emails, but maybe, connect with Mr. Good. I'll reply to that email. I
Okay.
just want some more clarity on the project.
Okay.
Can we put that item on the next
Yeah, that'd be great.
workshop agenda?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Next workshop agenda. we
Absolutely.
Discuss that. Okay. Anything further? Hearing none, we are adjourned.